Welcome back to Bahasa Inggris 1, and we are on the second week now, or the second session. And in this session, especially in this video, I will talk more about business English. So before we go further into the business English, let's understand what business English is. Okay, so before you learn about what business English is, you have to understand that every language has their own registers. So what is linguistic register? Linguistic register is the term that refers to the various ways people use language based on who they're talking to and their situation. Usually in different register, we will use different vocabulary. There are 5 registers in English. The first one is frozen. Next one, we have formal, consultative, casual, and finally intimate. Frozen register, we use it in legal English or in religious texts. The style of frozen register is very strict and it usually uses archaic language. For example, it is the language that we use in the Bible or in the Quran. Formal register is the language register that we use when we are talking to someone with higher social status, like your boss, for example, at the office, or maybe to someone that is that you've just known, yeah, that is a stranger to you. We use formal language. Consultative language, the third one, is usually used by someone with a higher social status in an institution to someone that is lower, and it is used mainly for instruction or instructional language. This is the language that we use in the classroom, for example, from a lecturer or a teacher to the students, or the language used by the doctor to the patients. We call that consultative register. The fourth one is the casual register. The casual register, we use it to someone that we know, like our friends. We use casual register. And finally is the intimate one. Usually it's used between people who know each other very well, like spouses, your boyfriend or girlfriend maybe, or the language that you use with your brothers or with your parents. Okay, all right. Let's take a look the difference between formal language and casual language, because these two are the ones that we often see. Yeah, formal register, for example, in greetings. Remember the first time I greeted you in this video, I used hi everyone. That's not considered formal, actually. That is a casual register because I want to make my presentation casual. I don't want to put distance between me and you, the students. So I use a rather casual greetings, casual vocabulary with you all when I greeted you. Hi. In a formal setting, I wouldn't use hi. I would use greetings like good evening, everyone. Yeah, that is more formal. What's the difference between casual and intimate? For example, if I use the casual register, it is just like what I used before, yeah, or when you were talking with your friends. In intimate conversation, usually you use it with someone that you really know and you start to name call that person. Okay, For example, yeah, let's talk about the situation of English language, the American English one. In American English, when you talk to someone named Barbara, you will address the person as Barbara in a formal situation. In a casual situation, maybe you will call her Barb. In intimate situation, you will call her Barbie, for example. Okay. After register, we have styles. There are styles includes the choice of vocabulary, tone, use of grammar, sentence structure, and layout that differ depends on the purpose of the text. There are some styles of English. Yeah, there are lots of styles, basically, not some. There are lots of styles. Here I give you 5 examples of language styles: general English, academic English, legal English, journalistic English, and business English. Each styles, each style have different vocabulary, tone, and use of grammar. Yeah, academic English is very formal, and you have to use a very strict grammatical rules compared to journalistic English and business English. That's some examples. So business English is a style in English language, and the register of business English is usually formal. But sometimes at work we can also use casual um, casual register, especially to your colleague. But most of the time it's considered formal or semi-formal. Okay, let's continue. So these are the differences between general English and business English. General English is used in daily communication. That's the one that we use when we invite friends to a party, when we ask a direction. That's called general English. It's less formal. Business English is more formal. It is the language we use in business communication. For example, when you're delivering a sales presentation, when you're having business correspondence with the client, or when you're negotiating for some business deal, that's business English. So in terms of formality, business English is more formal than general English. And there are lots of variants of English basically. Yeah. The the question is what variant of English used in business English? Okay, what is variance or variation of English? So far, I believe you all know the two main variant of English, which is US English and UK English or British English. Those are the standard form of English that we use. Besides that, we have lots of variants. In fact, the number of non-native English speakers are almost twice as much as the number of native English speakers. You can see at the diagram here. 66% of English users are non-native. So non-native English, for example, people from Indonesia, Singapore, Japan, China, India, and so on. So the places in which English is not the first language. So what are the effect? The effect is that English now acts as a bridge across borders and cultures. It means we use English more to the non-native than the native English user. It affects on how we use English. Non-native English speaker, they will in their daily life they use the English influenced by their own culture. That's why we know some variants of English like Singaporean English or Singlish, Chinese English, Malaysian English, and they are affected a lot by the cultures of where they come from. For example, in Malaysian English, They are affected by Malay language. So in business English, what kind of English that we use? The kind of English that we use in business English should be the standard one. We cannot use the non-native English. So standard English like British English or US English, we have to use either of them. Yeah. Which one is better? None is better than the other. Basically, now we understand what we call we know what we call as international English. So international English, it uses the standard form of grammar. It uses the standard vocabularies. We have to make sure that the vocabularies can be understood by people from various countries, from various cultures. Okay. The standards is the convention. So remember, whenever we write, whatever we write, whenever we communicate, whatever we communicate, we must understand the conventions we need to follow if we are to please our target readers. This has to be the best starting point from a business perspective. So, for example, if you're in Malaysia, you may find words like walk, walk, which is not standard in English. So when Malaysian they want to use the business English to people outside Malaysia, they cannot use such words. Yeah, they have to use the standard one. However, maybe when you communicate with someone from Singapore and it's not in form of writing, it's a spoken language. You're having conversation with people from Singapore. If you know Singlish, if you know Singaporean English, I think that would be better because it will increase the communication between you because you can speak their language. That would be better. However, in writing, that would be bad because you have to make sure that they understand you and use standard English in writing. You have to be consistent. What does it mean by being consistent? You can choose either you want to use UK English or US English in your language, in your writing, but you have to be consistent. So you cannot mix them up. Yeah. For example, when you say favor, you use the US spelling FAVOR. But when you use standardized, you use the British spelling. That will be inappropriate. If you want to use US style, stick to them, be consistent. If you want to use the UK style, stick to it, be consistent. Look for the convention, look and study the convention. Yeah, the difference between the UK or the British style and the American style of English. Because remember, business communication is crucial to success. Yeah, so if people are puzzled by our communication, that will have an adverse effect or a bad effect on the results. We cannot pretend this doesn't matter, yeah, because getting the right messages out and receiving the right answers are very important. It's the lifeblood of commercial success. All in all, we have to understand, just like our first session, the one um, that we had last week, yeah, English is the predominant business language. So even though Chinese has more users than English, but in terms of business language, English is used more than the Chinese. So if you want to strive in international business, if you want to strive with the business communication with people throughout the world, you need a good business English. And to use the good business English, you have to learn the standards. So in this course, throughout the semester, we will learn more about the standard of business English. What register that we use, what words that we use, how about the grammatical rules, and so on. And of course, we will learn to will have listening sessions on the business conversation or and you will do some business presentation. Yeah, you will role play. We will role play the meetings and so on. It will be a fun class. So that's it for this session, for this video. The next video after this, I will talk further about how we communicate better in a written language, and then we will talk about how to use a good sentence in English. So that's it. Thank you. See you on the next video.